Alright, so now that I've gone ahead and shown you the merry-go-round of design, which is basically cyclical design theory, let's go ahead and actually have a look at our character brief. So I've just gone ahead and put together this little slideshow here so that we are all on the same page when it comes to, well, kind of building this character together. So I'm going to show you what is in my brain, essentially, when thinking about this character, okay? Generally speaking, if you want to go through exactly the same process that I'm going through here, this can also act like it's a bit of a guide, okay? So straight off the bat, one of the first things I do straight away is think about 3 defining themes and keywords that I can use to describe the character that's in my brain. So again, aim for 3, but be happy with 2, okay? So sometimes it might be super difficult and you can't think of 3, in which case 2 is perfectly fine. So the first one I've got in my head is the term gunslinger. Okay, and you can see that I've got a very adequate picture of Ashe from Overwatch. Fantastically designed character, love her to bits. But when I think of gunslinger, I've just gone ahead and written down some things there that I associate with the term gunslinger. So I'm thinking about duster cloaks and hats, because of course. I'm thinking of bolt action weapons that you've got to reload on every type of shot. There's that type of shotgun, I think, that you can do that with that I've always liked. And of course, leather holsters. You know, you've got modern holsters that are made out of like webbing or different kinds of synthetic fabrics. But of course, a gunslinger is going to use the traditional good old leather holster. Another one is Gothic, and this is where Lady Maria from Bloodborne comes in. Okay, so I want to try my best to essentially combine the likes of Ashe and Lady Maria, and I think that's going to be quite a good challenge to do. It's going to be a lot of back and forth, but basically the gunslinger theme is going to be fighting the Gothic theme every step of the way. And just to be clear, Gothic means to me dark color tones, so you can see a lot of muted blues, browns, and blacks in this picture here. Mysterious, kind of somber tone and air to it as well, so maybe not everything about this character is so readily apparent from a visual standpoint. Maybe when you see this character for the first part, you go, oh, okay, you have a perception of her one way, but actually there's quite a few things that are a mystery about her, which makes her quite an interesting character. And of course, like the architecture, particularly in the buildings, a lot of sharp, angled shapes. So instead of having nice, smooth, rounded edges to her clothing, I'm going to try my best to end things in points. Not to the point where it's like a spike, but where we're getting harsh kind of angular edges instead. And the third one here is a little bit of a curveball. I've called it Redeemed. And now you can see it's not a visual theme, but it's an idea I want to have running in my head all the time, where I'm sort of thinking to myself that this character is a bit of a backstory, was perhaps some kind of outlaw or lawbreaker who has been redeemed through some way or method, and is now some kind of vigilante or deputy or something like that. Okay, very, very, I guess, stereotypical story, but it always helps to have a bit of kind of background idea or world building in your head to really kind of help realize the character both in your head and especially when it comes to on paper and in 3D. So, speaking of that, let's go ahead and figure out how to gather references. Okay, so at this point, this part here is absolutely critical. Almost anything goes, and I really mean that. Let me just show you a couple of areas that I usually visit to try and get ideas and inspiration and reference images. Pinterest is almost immediately my first stop, okay? So I go and have a look at this website because it acts just like it says, it's a pin board. So typically Pinterest is used for tag-based searching. You can create custom boards to sort images. You can pin images to any created boards that you've made if you download the plugin for your browser. You can even pin a picture you find off Pinterest to a board, which is handy. And the good thing about Pinterest is that it uses an AI kind of logic breakdown to have a look at the image that you've chosen in particular, and then based off that, give you AI-based suggestions for relevant or similar images to the one you've just gone ahead and had a look at. Okay, so that's really, really nice, and I like to use it for that because, well, that really helps me find similar ideas if I find a picture that is kind of what I'm looking for, but isn't exactly what I'm looking for. Now, speaking of what I'm looking for, this is what I personally use Pinterest for, and literally keeping a track of different projects. If you had a look at my Pinterest, it is absolutely chock-a-block full of projects that have just gone off to the collective wasteland of death to at some point be completed. So I use it as a way to track all the different projects going on in my head, but I also use it for collating inspiration for projects. So I use it as like a one-stop shop, almost like a mood board in of itself, just to go there and go, right, I'm thinking of this character, what's my inspiration, and boom, it's all there in front of me. And I use that AI-based suggestion finding to find images for the correct image. And then, of course, it's a really nice way to use it to narrow down and focus on your inspiration. So you can have several boards for the same project, and each board has a more narrowed down and focused kind of approach so that you can really start to realize your ideas in a more tangible manner. And last but not least, you can actually find some fantastic tutorials on there, like Marvelous Designer sewing patterns, handy topology tutorials, and ZBrush things, all done in like a long image kind of format. So it's great. It's a great site. Artbreeder. This is a strange one. Now, I only recently learned about Artbreeder, and if you don't know what it is, basically it's AI doing references for you. What it uses is this kind of AI learning algorithm to provide you with your search results. So you'll kind of look through a smorgasbord of images, usually portraits of people, but there are other things on there. And it will actually give you, once you've selected an image, a bunch of sliders to tweak things like hair length, color, skin color, eye color, different angles, what have you. And it will try to interpret that picture based upon the sliders that you're tweaking. And it can create some quite nice effects. So like I said there, it creates both portrait-based things and full-body concept art. You can even find like full kind of character art, but of course it's been drawn by an AI, so expect it to not make sense completely, but it's a pretty good starting ground if you really don't have anything to go off for like a full-body concept, okay? What I use it for particularly is I actually use it for making unique likenesses, and we'll actually do that in this course as well. So we'll go over to Artbreeder and we'll actually play with the sliders a little bit to get a unique face. I'm very much a fan of kind of using a real face as a starting ground, but then creating a unique face that is realistic looking, but doesn't exactly look like, you know, a celebrity or something like this. Okay, so that's basically it. And of course, it's a good place to go to discover some kind of foundation for a character concept, maybe looking at portraits or other images that spark inspiration, or the various concept art on there already. But do be aware, you can get kind of creepy looking images like that one there lurking in the bottom corner, so do tread cautiously. Okay, so for ArtStation, I think most 3D artists are aware what ArtStation is, but just in case you're not, it's a one-stop shop, okay? It's amazing. It provides you with fantastic, detailed looks at all the other artists around the world and their work. It's great. It's even got a marketplace where tutorials are sold, assets are sold, you know, anything from brushes to complete 3D models and like scan data and what have you. And it's got a kind of built-in feature there for like private messaging and contacting, connecting and networking with other artists on ArtStation there. And last but not least, if you're looking to get into any kind of creative industry, it's even got a jobs page, which is fantastic. Now, particularly what I use ArtStation for is finding raw inspiration. Okay, a lot of the time to find inspiration, look at other people's art. Okay, go around, have a look there. I can see there's a Jinx there in the background from League of Legends. Just by having a look at Jinx, you might go, oh, you know what? I want to create a character like that. And it could be the foundational kind of ramp for you to create your own character as an offshoot of that and, you know, create something nice. I also use it to keep up to date with favorite artists of mine that I particularly follow. That's where I receive a lot of my freelance opportunities from personally, and the assets on the marketplace, I cannot emphasize enough, are fantastic assets on there. I use quite a few of them. I'm going to refrain from using too many of them in the course here just because I want it to be as accessible as possible, but there are a lot of things on there that save you heaps of time. Definitely something you should check out. Okay, now, this might seem like a bit of a joke. Are you serious? Your Steam and game library? Yes, absolutely. Please don't underestimate this. Literally playing some games is now your work, because obviously Steam is a games platform, but what else it can do for you is provide you with inspiration. A little bit more about that in a minute. You can also see how other video game characters are designed. You can maybe get a feel for how they're animated, how they're rigged, what kind of systems you've got in there. For example, if you're thinking about a game development aspect, does it use a tight third-person camera, or does it use a relaxed, drawn-back third-person camera? Is it first-person? Is it head bob? All this kind of thing. Stuff you wouldn't necessarily typically think about unless you play a game. And it can also give you a clue on what the characters in the industry creates and how they create them. I'm going to share a little secret with you. My 3D journey is all thanks to Jill Valentine from Resident Evil Remake on the GameCube. You know, the model for it fell off the back of the internet one day. I picked it up and I loaded it into 3ds Max at the time, and I looked at the topology and how she was built and how many polygons there was, and saw that, oh yeah, there's nothing under her hat, or there's nothing under her inside her boots or anything like that. And to a first time 3D person, it was a fountain of complete knowledge. Okay, so whilst I'm not saying go and rip characters out of games, that's not what I'm saying, but you can start to get an appreciation for how characters are kind of put together in games just by playing them if you're looking for it. Okay, now what I use it for is, it's my starting point. Usually when I'm playing a game like maybe something like Mortal Kombat, for example, there I'm going to be straight with you guys. When I played Mortal Kombat 11, I absolutely loved Scarlet's design in that. It was fantastic. I really loved almost everything about it. And one day, one of my projects in Death Valley on my Pinterest there is to make a Scarlet-like character. And just by playing Mortal Kombat, I got this inspiration. Oh, I really want to make a character like this, okay? And if you go on my ArtStation in a moment, you'll actually see my interpretation of a Jill Valentine character. So my raw inspiration often does come from video games and my Steam library. And like I said before, I use it to review technical aspects of a character model, so I might go in and scrutinize the hair, or see if I can count how many polygons makes up the character's nose or their fingers or something like this. And it gives me a good idea if I'm ever lost in game development, you know, how did the third person camera in this game work? And I can always boot it up, have a look, and then that informs how I might go about, you know, with my character behaving in my game or something like that. So the Steam library is actually a really good place to start, so please don't underestimate it. And, you know, playing games is work, so it's great. Now let's get to the mood board. It's about putting all that stuff, all that good inspirational stuff in one place. So without further ado, here is my mood board here. It is an absolute mess. Yes it is. But mood boards often are, because it's literally anything your brain kind of goes and saying, yes, that's it. Something about that picture speaks to me about this character, and just dumps it on in some kind of arranged format in a screen. And that's basically what a mood board is, okay? So just to run through this very quickly, you can see Ash here from Overwatch. You can see quite a few full body kind of concept art images here and character renders. Sorry about that. It's quite noisy. I live in a city. As I was saying, you can see quite a few full body character renders here. Okay, you can see fan art of Lady Maria here, and I've kind of got waistcoat or vest like things inspiration here, because I definitely want to do something similar to what Ash has got, but mix it up a little bit. Okay, I've got kind of coat ideas here, down there, gloves, neck scarves, trousers, pockets, gloves, what have you, boots. And this little section over here, I'm just going to explain it a little bit, because there's a portion in the back of my mind that's sort of going, hey, wouldn't it be really cool if you made something supernatural about this character? So I'm just going to let you know, no spoilers here, but Lady Maria is not everything she appears to be. And I really like that idea, and I'm thinking, well, perhaps my character might have something similar. Maybe her eyes are going to glow every now and then when she's about to, you know, take a shot or something like this, because she's a gunslinger. Maybe there's a reason why she's super accurate with guns or something like that. It's a supernatural reason. I don't know. Let's see as we go along. Okay? So, mood board tips. There we go. I've got a picture down there for you there. Try to narrow it down if you can. Now, I'm not saying narrow it down to one picture, okay? But a few images will usually stick out. And what I'd like to think of them as is that's your primary inspiration, okay? So try your best to isolate these images if you can. It's very, very difficult. I completely sympathize. It's not easy, but do try to do it and set it around to about 2 or 3 different images there to kind of inform the overarching idea of your character, okay? And it can be extra images. For example, this picture of Lady Maria and Ash was not in that mood board, okay? But they are still good representations of what I'm aiming for, so go ahead and put them here, okay? So if you're completely lost, you can, instead of referring to the chaotic mass that is your mood board, you can perhaps refer to the rather calm, simplistic nature of just 3 images to go off instead. Okay, in terms of mood board tips in general, have it out as much as possible, okay? Treat it like a Bible for your concept art phase. Using something like PureRef, which is a piece of software you can download for free, or you can kind of tip the people who make it, just search for it on Google. It's basically a reference piece of software that has an on top of other window mode so that you can use it and have it there constantly as you're drawing, and that's what I'm going to be using, okay? But having that mood board out there and always visible in front of you as you're doing your concept art can help you really focus on the idea and trend and the defining theme of your characters. If you make a mood board, discard it, and start drawing from memory, chances are you might start to deviate a little bit from your mood board. Now, deviation, like I said in the last video, is not a bad thing, but if you're after a very particular kind of focused design, it's always good to have your mood board out there, just in case you veer off a little bit too much and you realize at the end of it all, oh, actually that's not what I wanted to create. Okay, so it can be a time saver, so please keep your mood board easily at reach. And one last final step before we jump into the world of concept art is, let's go ahead and grab some anatomical reference, and by that I mean we need a base mesh. Okay, so what I mean by base mesh, it's not a 3D base mesh, but it's basically a base mesh for our concept art. So I go on Pinterest there or on the internet, and I find men and women based upon the character I want to create. Obviously, this character is going to be a woman, so I've found art on there of women usually in, like, I don't know, sleepwear or bikinis or fitness clothing, something tight, I guess, that you can see their figure in, and basically I just draw over the top of it. I tried to pick neutral-ish poses, so, you know, facing forward, you know, not a whole lot going on. I don't want a picture of her dancing or playing a sport or something like this. Just a basic standing pose so that you can explore your concept art to the fullest, okay? Now, you could, of course, do multiple poses to explore, you know, the side view, the back view, the top view, what have you, but you can get away with just the front view and kind of draw some extra little bits on the side as well. And of course, I do say a simplistic pose works out, but if you want to explore maybe the personality and the dynamicness of a character, a dynamic pose can help you work out some of those missing details as well. Okay? So when that finally said, let's go ahead and get started. So personally for me, in this concept art video, I'm going to be using software called Affinity Photo because it's a one-time payment software that's basically equivalent to Photoshop. But of course, you can use any software you like to use that's got a kind of drawing application to it. Okay, you could even use a tablet. That's sometimes what I do a lot of my concept art on. But for this particular course, I'll be using Affinity Photo. Okay? Alright, I'll stop talking for this video. I'll see you in the next one.